Welcome to the first ever edition of College Football Friday. I'm your host, Pete B. I've got Sam Jesse here. Sam, how you doing on Black Friday, man?
I'm doing good. Got to sleep in, helping clean stuff up around the old family house, and sitting on a bed drinking some coffee, ready to watch some football.
Black Friday is for black coffee, I suppose. So cheers.
I can't really. It's a little precarious to try to tilt it, but I don't mess around with sugar, cream, none of that. Just
Yeah.
right into my veins.
I am a black coffee guy myself. This show is brought to you by Jack and Coke. We are live here on Black Friday. Thank you for joining us. And we felt like we wanted to do this because there are 14 college football games today. There's a ton of college football games tomorrow. And I'm so excited. This weekend is absolutely packed. In this episode, we are going to preview all of this weekend's action. We're going to give you our thoughts on the CFP rankings and the playoff in general, and how this weekend might affect that field, as well as our final thoughts on Virginia Tech and UVA. It's going to be fun. I wanted to start. We're going to get some other people in here soon enough. Robert Irby should be joining us, perhaps Ed Williams, perhaps others. I don't know. But Mack Brown got fired this past week, Sam. What were your thoughts on that? Did you see that coming?
I didn't see fired coming, but I wonder if it was a case where he just said, "Hey, I don't want to retire," and the AD said, "Watch this." And it sounds so cruel, but it also is a point where, like, if he's not gonna walk away and you think you need to make the move, it's kind of your only choice. And it's maybe pretty smart by UNC because right now they are the most high profile opening by a mile. And, considering how slow some other programs have been, considering Florida doesn't look like they're going to make a move, UNC might be the number one job on the market this offseason.
Yeah. And it definitely is at this point. And it was interesting to hear Josh Pate and his commentary on it on Twitter were saying that it's highly thought of in the coaching industry, the opening at UNC. And I don't disagree that people have been calling it a sleeping giant for 20, 30 years in football, just because of the name, the fact that the basketball is so good. They've got a lot of resources, all that stuff. But what does highly thought of mean? More highly thought of than who in the ACC? Like
that's
5
true.
teams, 7 teams?
Yeah, it's a little weird because one, I think if you go to UNC recruiting, you're in a very fertile recruiting ground. You have a ton of money. They're good at pretty much every single sport except football. They're kind of UVA in that sense. I will also say too, it is a very desirable place to live. Chapel Hill is amazing. So if you're a young hotshot coach with a family and you're looking at places to live, like Chapel Hill is going to jump off the page to you. So I think that is one of those intangible non-football things that we don't really think about that UNC has going for it. So if I was a coach looking to start, UNC might be pretty high on my list, especially considering what the other job opportunities look like.
Yeah. And as you finish that thought, I wanted to add Robert Irby to the screen. Rob, welcome to the pod, man.
Yeah, sorry. Right before the pod started, my computer crashed. So,
I figured something like that must have happened.
My MacBook.
We'll have Pat send you the Amex number and we'll get you a new MacBook.
Yeah, I wish.
Okay.
Yeah, it is Black Friday. Cyber Monday's coming up. I'm in the market for a new Mac myself. So yeah, let me get that SOS credit card going over here. So we were just talking about Mack Brown, Irby, and we don't have to go into too much more detail, just discussing the fact that if it was so highly thought of in the industry, as Josh Pate has indicated, why did they have to settle for Mack Brown last time out? I just, that's kind of the point I come back to, or maybe that was just a poor decision. I don't know, but he did get their recruiting in a good place.
Yeah. And I'll just make a point, I guess, is that I feel like UNC, the theory of UNC from a broad perspective seems awesome. I think when you get down to the core of it, you find that they don't have the football infrastructure that you would expect them to. And so then I can see them getting a lot of initial interest, and then people kind of look and they're like, actually, I don't think I want to go here. Like Arthur Smith, right? He just did the same thing. He just had the conversation, was like, I'm good actually. Stayed with the Steelers.
Yeah. And that's the rumor, right? That like they're looking at Arthur Smith potentially for whatever for their head coaching job, I suppose, which I thought was a very weird fit.
Yeah, and it also sounds like you're in love with the idea of UNC football. You're not in love with UNC football.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
All right, let's move on. Memphis beats Tulane yesterday, 34-24. I told you guys on the thread, I galaxy brained this thing. I had Memphis going in. They were 13.5-point dogs, but I'm looking at Tulane and the way they're beating teams. I'm looking at who Memphis has beat, and like nobody's good, and they've lost to some bad teams. And so I was like, you know what? Tulane's been a wagon. I'm taking Tulane, and it blew up in my face. Like Memphis really came out and played well.
Yeah, Memphis looked really good. Seth Hennigan I'm telling you, I tweeted out last night, but if I'm an NFL GM and I'm looking for a quarterback and I maybe don't want to spend round one capital on him, I would really look at Seth Hennigan because that dude looks nice. He looks pretty good. But also with Tulane, I'm kind of a Tulane fan. I root for them every time they're on there. The guys of the Uptown Update, friends of the pod. They've lost to every good team they've played this year. Like they've played 3 good teams and they lost to 3 good teams. Their best win is Louisiana, who's a good Louisiana team, but you know, it does feel like they are still in year 1 with Summerall, and that roster isn't as dominant as it maybe looks on the box scores. But credit to them, like they've had a great year. They have a true freshman quarterback, a lot of portal guys that they're working with. So Tulane's going to be really good. But that Memphis roster is seasoned. They're veteran. They've looked really good. Their rush defense let them down against Navy and it let them down against UTSA. Other than that, like they should be undefeated right now. They scored 40+ points in both of the games that they lost.
Yeah. I mean, Memphis is a decent team. Like you said, Sam, neither of these teams is very good, obviously. I think like if Tech had played either of these, if they played Memphis's schedule, like we may very well have beaten a lot of these teams by multiple scores, despite all of our flaws. Because when you just ratchet the schedule down as much as Memphis's is, like we might have lost to Tulane, but we probably have 8 or 9 wins at this point. Like it's just not, and you know how mediocre we are. And so good job on Memphis going out there and getting the W. But I just come away with this, like the Big 12 is just so relieved now because they don't have to worry about that outside chance of like, oh, our champ gets left out because, you know, Tulane gets in there over us or something random like that. Like that ship has sailed. The AAC is done at this point. Right, Rob?
Yeah, no, for sure. And, you know, going back to Tulane, I did really like the freshman quarterback this year. Mensah, I think is his name. I mean, he was making some really high level throws and some good reads for a true freshman that I think he could end up being one of the better quarterbacks to come out of that class. Like I was very, very impressed with him. Their defense just let him down, and their rush offense too. You know, Memphis was really just selling out on the run. Mekhi Hughes is a beast, so they really kept him in check, and ultimately the offense just couldn't keep up. Receivers kept dropping balls. Just a
your point on Mensah is well made because I don't think Tulane can recover from the loss of their coach, the loss of all those players that they had without having kind of a standout quarterback this year. And they did. And that's a big reason why they have the record that they do. And they had been playing so well. I mean, they blanked Navy 2 weeks ago. Like that's really impressive.
Well, I know Memphis won the game and shout out to them, but another impressive thing with Tulane is they just lost the best quarterback in school history. And they turn around, they have like a stud true freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that
must be nice.
Talk about sleeping giant.
I mean, hey, I've been saying Tulane should be in the ACC for a couple of years now. We need an even amount of teams.
They're very Miami-esque university. Like they're in a big city, smart school, small private school. They're there, dude. They're there. And they
have more SEC championships than half the teams in the SEC. So
they've equal hurricane risk to Miami.
They've won 30 regular season games in the past 3 years now.
Wow. Yeah, they won a Sugar Bowl, right? Like,
yeah, they beat USC in a Sugar Bowl.
It's pretty awesome.
They beat Caleb Williams.
Also, elite uniform game.
Yeah.
I mean,
the uniforms were awesome.
What a uniform game that was. A treat.
Is all white. It Just
You guys, we need to stop talking about this AAC because we got a lot of good games today, a lot of good games tomorrow. Friday games. Let's get to this. 6 noon games today and a ton of just really fun ones. We'll start with Oregon State at Boise. This is a game where I like the points, but is this the get right game for Boise? Did Oregon State kind of blow their wad last week? What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, that was one of the more shocking results of the weekend, I think. Oregon State is a team that has a very limited roster this year and has had a ton of injuries, and they just came out and played balls to the wall against Washington State. Credit to them. Washington State, a program with a few people whose foot are out the door.
Where are they
Question
going?
mark?
Where are they going?
I don't know. I would take Mateer in Blacksburg. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, you're saying players, not coaches?
Oh, I think they're coaches too.
That's what I meant. It's like, where does the
I think
coach
their
end up?
coaching staff is going to end up somewhere.
Okay.
Another thing though, Boise State has been playing with their food, and this game is going to kick off at 10 a.m. local time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk about needing some coffee. So, which team handles a 10 a.m. kickoff the best? That is like a true equalizer, I think.
Yeah. No, Rob, what do you like with the points in here? I'm looking at it. It's 18.5. What do you like with here? Like, you don't have to, you don't have to pick it. I'm just asking your opinion.
I would take Boise in the points. I really would. I think that Oregon State really has not had a good season. I think that last week was more a matter of big time rivalry game at home. Just, weird stuff happens. Just going to be kind of like a lot of the rivalry games we see today and tomorrow. But yeah, Boise is a far and away better team. I think they are at a point where they do need to make a statement. And I feel like Sam said, they've played with their food long enough. Now is the time to, really kind of plant your flag in the ground that not only are we a playoff team, but we're one of the 4 buys. So
yeah, no, I get that. And I just like the last couple of weeks with the picks, I've just been feeling like I look at it, I think about it too much, and I'm like, yeah, these good teams, they should cover. And like Boise just played so terrible against Wyoming. And this is why even the best guys, I'm in this 125 person pick 'em. The person in first place is hitting like 56% of the picks. Like they are not our favorite picks. We have to pick the same 25 games a week. So, but like, that's how hard this is. It is very hard. And I'm looking at this game and like, I want to take Oregon State because I'm not trying to overcomplicate this. They played really well last week. I know they're on all these backups. Boise's been playing like dog shit. The pressure is on Boise big time. And I kind of just want to take 18.5 at an early start time, like Sam said.
Yeah, and I also wonder how much is Boise now going to play for style points. I think the last few weeks they've been playing pretty vanilla and just trying to get out there with wins. So we'll see if they try to, get a little funky with it. They do have to save some stuff up because they will be playing UNLV next week in the Mountain West title game. And that's a much, much better opponent than Oregon State right now.
All right, let's move to OK State and Colorado. Colorado, a big favorite in this one. Oklahoma State has been awful this year. We were talking about disappointing teams. They're at the top of the list. Literally, 2 of the teams that were favored to win the Big 12 in Kansas and Oklahoma State started off so disappointing. Oklahoma State hasn't improved. Kansas obviously has and is ruining the Big 12 week after week. But is this the OK State spot, or is that overthinking it?
I don't know.
Go ahead,
Colorado's so good at home. If this was in Stillwater, maybe I'd feel differently, but their defense is so bad. Alan Bowman is bad. I don't know. And I wouldn't put money on it because I'm avoiding Colorado at all costs now. But I would lean Colorado on the points.
Gotcha.
Elevation game. We haven't really talked about those this year, but elevation difference between Stillwater and Boulder. That's a big reason why Colorado is so good at home. But yeah, I agree. Like, Oklahoma State has just been atrocious. Atrocious. Yeah. And I don't know really what they do with Mike Gundy here because this is the first bad year he's had at Oklahoma State in 2 decades. I really wonder what you do with him going forward.
Yeah. Gundy's at a crossroads, especially with his like continuously continuing to get more weird comments and just like off-putting comments, like the drunk driving thing with Ali Gordon. There was a few other, him getting kicked in the face by a cattle. Like what is going on down there? Like
Weird stuff, man.
So I like Colorado mainly because they did lose last week and kind of a big spot. And if they want any chance of getting in the Big 12 title game, they should go out and put a hurting on Oregon State. So I'm probably going to take Colorado because if Colorado covers and I don't pick them, I'm going to feel very dumb. Like, and I just don't want to feel very dumb. So I'll do that. Egg Bowl, guys. Mississippi State at Ole Miss. That's today. Ole Miss, big favorites in this heated rivalry. Me and Sam talked about this on College Football Monday, Rob. Like, I'm taking those points all day.
Oh, absolutely. This is the Egg Bowl. What are we talking about? Like, if the Egg Bowl is the peak of throw the records out of all rivalries. Like, this just weird stuff always happens. Ole Miss, I think they're going to be, I almost wonder if they're going to be pressing too hard because trying to make up lost ground here, try to have that resume going. Whereas Mississippi State, this is their Super Bowl. I mean, 26 points in the Egg Bowl. What are we doing? Like, this is a lock for me.
Yeah, I have plus 26.5 here for Mississippi State. And it's also one of those games where, one team is playing for everything and the other team is playing for like survival, and they're worried about other games right now. And for me, the mindset is so much better for Mississippi State. And
yes,
Mississippi State has kept, like, they are one of the worst Power 4 teams. Like them, Stanford, and Florida State.
But they've shown signs of life as of late.
But they haven't gotten blown out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And so that's like, I think they got blown out against Texas and they got blown out against Alabama. And like, those are the two.
They scored 31 against Georgia.
Yeah. And how much did they score against Texas A&M? Like that was like a 10-point ball game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So I don't see Ole Miss winning this game by like 40.
I'm with you on the mentality, right? They just had that really bad loss against Florida. They're essentially out of the playoffs, regardless, unless like a meteor hits Earth and they just are canceled. But like
don't say that, Pete.
I'm sorry. But they're in bad shape, and so I wonder where their mentality is. And so I'm going to take Mississippi State. I'm rooting for some fun here, and Lane Kiffin saying, how much better the SEC is than everyone else when so many of the teams have 3 losses. Like, I get it. The schedules are hard, but like, come on, man. You're right. Like, you literally just blew it last week and you're going to come out with that comment. Like, I don't know.
How much does Ole Miss need to win this game by to like style points their way?
They need a shutout
into the conversation. Like, are we talking like 50-0?
Yeah, it would have to be 50-0, 50-7. They have to put up a 50 burger, in my opinion.
Because they haven't looked. I mean, they had the bye. They beat Georgia, right? And then they had the bye week, and then you lose at Florida, and now you're playing one of the worst power conference teams in the country at home. Like, I understand you have that win against Georgia at home, but like, dude, it's what have you done for me lately? A lot of times with these playoff committees. And I think schedule-wise, they kind of got screwed in this one with the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
I guess you got to play teams sometime. Go ahead, Rob.
Yes. But I think Ole Miss and Alabama, I think both of them are kind of in the same spot. Their true argument for getting into the field is, does the committee believe in like their best version of themselves enough? And that's the thing. Both of them have been arguably the most inconsistent teams in the country. Like, to handle Georgia and then lose to Florida, like that's nuts. So basically, it's like, can they make enough statements now to where the committee can say, all right, yeah, they have some bad results, but ultimately, when they're at their best, they're one of the best 12 teams. But if if there's a squeaker here, which I predict, I don't think the committee can say that.
No. And we'll do a little bit more playoff talk later in the show. Let's talk about Georgia Tech at Georgia. Good old-fashioned hate. Georgia 18.5-point favorites, which I think that means Haynes King's not playing with the line being that large. But I still, even without Haynes King, do you guys feel like Georgia Tech might be a little live here?
Oh, yeah. I have Georgia Tech plus 19.5. This line opened at 20.5. So it's gone gone towards Georgia Tech. I just think this is a feisty team that plays up to their competition, and Georgia is not. I don't see Georgia as clinical enough to wipe the floor with this Georgia Tech team, especially the way Georgia Tech wants to control the clock. So,
yeah, and I mean Georgia gave up over 200 rushing yards to UMass last week, and
weird.
Jamal Haynes
Definition
could
of
have
not
a really
locked
big
in.
game. Yeah, and maybe they were just not locked in, but Haynes could have a huge game, and I think the interesting thing about Aaron Philo, the true freshman, is yes, it's a tough spot to ask him to go into Athens and do anything, but the kid can air it out, and Georgia's secondary doesn't get tested a lot. When they have been tested, it hasn't exactly gone well. Even Jalen Milroe diced him up, like Ryan Williams, was hitting dream shakes on guys, and I don't know. It's rivalry.
There's a few rumors on Twitter that Haynes King might be playing. I don't know how much I can buy that, but even with Philo and their defense playing at such a better clip than they were last year, like I think this can be a game, and if it was in Atlanta, like it would be so much more interesting, in my opinion. But yeah, nevertheless, I'm very intrigued to what's happening here. I'm taking Georgia Tech, and we'll let the chips fall there. Any final comments on that, Sam? You want to move on?
No, I think this is going to be if Georgia Tech pulls this upset, the whole. I mean, that is doomsday.
That's
scenario.
Grounds for ACC getting 3 teams in right there, because everyone kind of thinks Georgia's the best team in the SEC right now. Like, because we're giving Ole Miss all this credit because they beat Georgia. Like we're giving Bama credit because they beat Georgia. Both of those things go out the window if they lose to Georgia Tech.
I mean, if there's a real scenario where A&M beats Texas and Georgia loses, and your conference title game is Georgia, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Both teams are at 9-3. Like there is a doomsday scenario for the SEC. It's probably not going to happen, but there is a doomsday scenario.
Well, and we talked a little bit about it on the chat, but like the doomsday scenario for the SEC happened last year. Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC title game, and FSU was undefeated, and the SEC was out. Like they were out of the playoff. And then they decide, well, if we don't like what we see out of Florida State versus Louisville, we're putting in Alabama. And it's Nick Saban's last year, which they knew, even though it wasn't announced yet, and they put him in. And I get it. Jordan Travis was hurt. That's what they're going to fall back on. But even if I would love to have seen what they did if Jordan Travis wasn't hurt. I really would have loved to see it, because that was the doomsday. They shouldn't have been in the playoff last year, and there's a chance that them and the ACC could have the same amount of playoff teams this year. If things go, the ACC has to play well. And like I said, we'll cover a little bit more of that. Do you have a final thing there?
What's crazy too is like Georgia could win a national title.
Yeah.
Ole Miss playing at their best, like could beat anybody in the country. Alabama playing at their best could win a national title. But it's these teams, like we talked about it all year. It's the top level talent in the SEC is so far beyond everybody else, but they don't show it week in and week out. Like they make a lot of bad mistakes, a lot of bad penalties, a lot of turnovers. That's kind of the brand of the SEC this season, has been really inconsistent, sloppy play.
And I think, Rob, it comes down to the quarterback play. There's no elite quarterback in the SEC right now. I thought Milroe was flirting with it, earlier in the year. Maybe Nussmeier we thought was flirting with it. And like, it's just not true.
No, it's the best quarterback in the SEC is probably Dart, but like, I don't feel great about saying that.
Watch the end of that game last week. What do you think?
Right,
now?
exactly. Right? Yeah, he was horrible.
I mean, it might be Arch
cerebral, but like
it might be Arch Manning.
It might be Arch Manning, guys. I mean,
is it DJ Lagway?
I mean, probably not, but maybe in a year. Like it's funny, man. That's what gives Miami a shot, like in everyone's head. Like if they have the best quarterback in the field, could they win it? But let's save some of that. Let's talk about some other games on Friday, because there's a heavy card here, fellas. Minnesota's going to Wisconsin. Miami, Ohio at Bowling Green. Those are Sam's Bowling Green. What is it? Eagles?
Oh, they're the Falcons.
The Falcons.
And they're not mine. They're actually they're not mine.
They're Scott Leffler's.
Wrong bird.
Scott Leffler's. But again, Hokie fans are gonna laugh. Scott Leffler's doing a hell of a job in Bowling Green, Ohio.
I mean, he had Penn State on the ropes.
And Texas A&M on the ropes. This game is for a trip to the MAC title, I believe. the winner will play Ohio, which Ohio lost 14 transfers to power conference schools, including their
Insane.
quarterback. And here they are. Like, I thought they were going to suck.
I'm
So
not
shout
sure if
out to the
Ohio's
Bobcats.
locked in or not. Wait, are they locked in because of what they did earlier this week?
I think so.
I don't know. Whatever.
I think they have a tiebreaker over somebody. I don't know, but it's a cluster. Anyways, so that's an important game in the MAC, talking about a conference title. So,
yeah. All right. Then we got Navy at ECU. ECU's been playing a lot better since they fired their coach. Tells you what you need to know about Mike Houston. Liberty at Sam Houston State. Liberty favored on the road in that one. I think they lose that game outright. I'm not buying into what Liberty has been so unimpressive to me all season long.
It's two inconsistent teams. I honestly, I don't have a lean either way. I think either team would be even the best and worst of both of these teams in the last couple weeks. So,
yeah, Sam Houston looked good, but defensively, but they just didn't show up against Jacksonville State. And Liberty runs a very similar style offense, so it might be a matchup issue for the Bearcats of Sam Houston.
If people weren't aware, this is kind of some sicko stuff we're doing right now. Sam just had an opinion on the playing style of of Liberty and Sam Houston State, and so did Rob. So we're doing stuff over here, man. It's
Rich Rod.
This is College Football Friday. Make sure you like the video if you're watching with us. Make sure you're subscribed to the Sons of Saturday feed on YouTube. You'll get those notifications if you're subscribed to all of our latest content. And I know football season's coming to a close, but we're going to be doing College Football Monday stuff, playoff talk, coaching rumors swirling. We'll cover that in a little bit. And basketball, the soccer team, which is kicking ass, and women's. And so make sure you're subscribed.
Yeah, kicking. They're also kicking soccer balls.
All right. We also got Utah State at Colorado State. Colorado State, a lot on the line here. They have they are undefeated in the Mountain West. They can go to the championship game if they win today. They're 4.5-point favorites. Texas State and South Al. No one really cares about that, but South Alabama is a 1-point dog at home. This is an interesting one, guys. We got Stanford at San Jose State. Stanford underdogs in this one, Sam.
Yeah, and this is a weird game because San Jose State locked up a bowl a few weeks ago. They've played pretty good ball this year, especially after losing their coach to Arizona. Stanford is a team that I feel like has gotten better as the year has progressed, and they've gotten healthier too, especially on offense. This is an interesting game. It's a little bit of a local rivalry. I have Stanford money line in this game. I think they're playing good ball, and San Jose State doesn't have a lot to play for. Like, this is Stanford's Super Bowl right now. But it's going to be an interesting game, and it's one, like we talked about it, Pete, and I'm going to bring it up until we bet it. Stanford over win total for next year, because every single player on their team seems to be a freshman.
Yeah, I'd like Stanford money line in this one too. And in terms of the win total, what do you think the over-under is going to be next year for Stanford? I'm
going to look up their schedule while y'all talk about something.
I was going to guess 4.5 off the cuff.
Yeah,
but I actually like San Jose State in this spot. I definitely see the point of like motivation, but I think also like if I'm San Jose State, this is, like Sam said, it is a local rivalry, and it's last game of the year, and you're playing a Power 4 opponent, and I think San Jose State has one of the best passing attacks in the whole country. Like Nick Nash is a monster, and then they have another receiver that's about to get to 1,000 yards as well. I don't know if Stanford has the juice to keep up with that offense.
Well, they did just beat Louisville 2 weeks ago, and they had Cal, like, not dead to rights, but they had Cal on the ropes, and they let him come back and beat them.
Well, Louisville handed them that game too, though.
They did, but Louisville should be significantly better. I just think it's a sign that Stanford has been playing better football.
Yeah, for sure. I just think, San Jose State's just a touch better for me. I do like the point on Stanford as a whole.
Nebraska at Iowa is happening today too, fellas. A game I always enjoy. It's not Farmageddon, because that's the other one this weekend, but it's close. It's the Farm Boys are getting after it. Nebraska is 3-point dogs on the road. Initially, I liked Nebraska because Iowa is on backup quarterback number whatever, and they're going to have to run the ball. And Nebraska's been good at defending the run. But I don't know. It's hard not to take Iowa at home, Sam.
It is. I have the over in this game, which sounds so disgusting coming out of my mouth. But it's only 39.5. And if you look at Iowa this year, they haven't been a low scoring team. Like they've been going for it and they've been creating explosive plays. Their defense is good, but not as elite as some people thought coming in. Mm-hmm. And I also think Nebraska hasn't been super impressive this year, but I think they are much improved than they have been in previous years. And I think Raiola is the kind of quarterback who can make something out of nothing. And I'm expecting a few of those plays today. So I think something like a 24-20 game makes more sense than a real low scoring game.
Yeah, I think so.
So I have the over. Also, back to the Stanford conversation. Their schedule's pretty tough next year, especially if Florida State rights the ship. So yeah. I'm thinking this might be like 4 even on the dot, maybe 4.5. But they would have to pull a few upsets. They got to play at BYU. They got to play at Miami. They got to play at UNC. They host Florida State, Cal. They're going to play some good teams next year.
Got it. All right. And the last game on Friday is Utah at UCF. UCF 10-point favorites. I'm not sure in what world UCF deserves to be favored by 10 points over anyone this year. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Utah in that game. It's not one of my favorite plays of the weekend because I just don't care about this game, but I just don't really get the line there. Rob?
No, these are two just absolutely disgusting football teams. Yeah, they're both bad. Like, just take the points. Don't watch the game.
Yeah, don't watch the game.
I have Utah plus 9.5. I also have the over because UCF does not care to play defense anymore. And I think Utah, like, quietly, and I hate saying this because we love the Utes, they defensively seem to have mailed it in as well.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, they can't stop the run. Everyone's running against them. UCF is just going to run the ball over and over and over again, score 1 million points. And then UCF is not going to want us to play defense either.
I heard an interesting take on this game, though. Utah's not going to a bowl this year. They're heading to, is this Tampa or Orlando? Is this in Orlando?
Orlando.
Right? Yeah. This is their bowl game. This is the final game of the year. This is their bowl game. They get to go down to sunny Florida and make a statement in their final game of the season. So treat it like a bowl. Maybe they'll come out, play better.
Reverse elevation game as well. Think about how full of oxygen their lungs are going.
Yeah, for real, man. Get to play in some nice 70-degree weather or whatever. That's anyway.
Why
are we still talking about this game?
I just hope they get to go to Disney World after or Universal. Maybe
they should put something in there for the kids. All right. As I said at the top of the show, this College Football Friday is brought to you by Jack and Coke. 2 legends, 1 can. Jack and Coke. You can see the can in the bottom of your screen. #1 cocktail in the world is now available in that can. It's true. Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey mixed with Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola Zero, or Cherry Coke is now available in a can at your local grocery and convenience stores. 2 legends, 1 can. Jack and Coke, ready to drink. And as always, please drink responsibly. On Saturday, guys, there is several games involving at least one ranked team. And we'll start with, I'm going to get it wrong again, the big game, Sam? The game?
I think it's just the game.
The game. Yeah, I knew I was going to get it wrong, no matter what I chose. But Michigan at Ohio State. Ohio State minus 19.5. And you'll notice on the sheets that I sent you guys that I put a little in parentheses here because there was a gentleman on the sideline for Michigan when they scored 50 on Northwestern and looked like a completely different offense. And that was Biff Poggi. Do you think Biff Poggi gets them the cover and perhaps the win today in Columbus?
No.
No, you're taking
I don't know
State?
about the cover.
Okay.
I did tease it. I teased Ohio State down to minus 13.5 because I feel better about a 2-touchdown win. So I don't know about the full 19, but I don't know. I feel like Biff is more likely to end up helping out Jim Harbaugh in LA than anything.
I think you are going to see the wrath of God clad in scarlet and gray on Saturday.
Ooh.
Like, I think you could see they are going to try to beat Michigan to a pulp and embarrass them. And they're going to call timeouts at the end of the fourth quarter. They're going to keep throwing the ball. Like, this is what makes like these rivalries different than other ones is like when you actually hate the other team. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of pent up energy here. They did it to Indiana last week with that, like, they scored at the like QB sneaked with their starting quarterback at the very end of the game. I have Ohio State minus 20.5 and their team total over 30.5, like a 31-10, 31-7 type game. I just Michigan was able to out athlete Northwestern last week. They're not going to be able to do that this week. So I think the Buckeyes are going to be pretty angry.
At the same time, Michigan's beaten them twice in a row.
That's true.
They were a very physical team last year. They're still physical, and they just put up those points. Rob, what do you think? Like, you teased it up, and there was a reason you did that. 19.5 is a lot in a rivalry. I know Ohio State wants to beat them, and they should beat them for whatever style points or whatever, but should doesn't mean anything once you're out on that field. And
yeah, I would say that from style points end, I almost wonder if Ohio State, while I think that the rivalry in them wants to beat Michigan to a pulp, I think you have to kind of zoom out and look at things more broadly. You don't want to run up the score on Michigan and then risk injuring Will Howard right before you have, the biggest rematch in college football next week against Oregon, and with a bye on the line. And I think if you're Ohio State, there's just so much more on the table for you that even though this rivalry is meaningful, locally, you can't stretch yourself too thin with that.
There's a lot of games left in the season for someone like Ohio State. And
big games,
But I come back to that Ryan Day video that I even tweeted out this week. It was like, losing to Michigan in this game was like the worst thing that's happened to me in my life. and he's like, other than like the death of my father, it's losing this game.
Well, something interesting though about Michigan is I think we have the last few years, they've been so dominant on defense. And I think we just have assumed that they're the same dominant team on defense this year, and they really haven't been. On 47.1% of drives, the opposing team has either scored a touchdown or achieved a first down inside the 40-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
That's 124th in the country.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they
have not playing.
They have not been dominant on defense this year.
No.
Yeah.
They had a nice performance last week, for what it's worth, but and they held Indiana in check. I mean, only 20 points given up to Indiana is pretty damn good. So maybe that defense has gotten a little bit better I over this course of the season, because I remember you talking to me about that, Sam, about their defense and it not being elite. And it's not elite, but I do think they can do enough. The issue to me in this game is like, how is Michigan going to score points? Like, it's going to be a challenge because Ohio State knows they want to run the football. They're not going to be able to pass the ball. They haven't been able to pass the ball all season. And Ohio State's defense is so freaking good. Like, I just don't know how many points that Michigan can put up, Rob.
No, it might be the best defense in the country. I was thinking more about it. It's hard to argue against that. So maybe that is ultimately what it could be, a close game for a while. And then this could be another like 31-7 kind of game.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Tennessee and Vandy. This is totally different on the spectrum, but nevertheless an in-state rivalry. And Vandy getting 11 points at home. How many times does this need to happen this year before the market decides they want to actually give Piss and Pavia some credit? Because I'm all over Vandy with this number.
Yeah,
Vandy money line.
Vandy money line.
Yeah. I like that. I
like it. I'm going Vandy plus. Shoot, what do I have here? 11. I have 11 right on the dot. It's the SpongeBob clip. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Like, I wanted
the young people.
I wanted to take Tennessee, but this could be an ugly football game. And Vanderbilt, this is their Super Bowl. This game, this is the most important.
We thought it was week one. We thought it was Bama, but no, now it's this.
We thought it was Texas.
Yeah.
In the state of Tennessee, like, UT runs everything, and Vandy is, I wouldn't even call them a little brother. Like, they're like your little punk cousin that you see, twice a year at Christmas, and you absolutely Moss at the
Put them in
turkey
the
bowl.
trash can. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like
My
this is their
bad.
real opportunity. They can cause chaos here. They can knock Tennessee out of the playoffs, and Diego Pavia could take down one last giant. Like, I love this spot for them at home in a city where there are more UT fans than there are Vandy fans. Like, all the motivation has to be there.
Imagine
And
trying to walk through that stadium during this game. We couldn't walk through it when it was Tech playing in that stadium. Now it's UT.
Right.
Like, you're not going to be able to
do.
move.
I wonder if that, in a like weird reverse way, kind of helps Vanderbilt. Like, I wonder if that gives them a chip on their shoulder
yeah,
a little bit here,
I mean,
especially a
they've
guy
been-
like
they've
Diego
been
Pavia.
great at home.
Yeah.
Also,
I
this
mean,
might
they
be,
beat Alabama at home. They covered Texas at home. They just covered against LSU. Why not cover again?
And Tennessee's offense is not very
not
good.
good. It's
Let's
not
just
good.
say, let's
It's
just
not
call
good,
it what
Robert.
it is.
It's not.
If Vandy goes up 14, 17, nothing like they did against Virginia Tech, it's really hard for Nico, who is allegedly limited. Like, I don't know.
No,
I
there's
really
no
like the
allegedly.
upset
He's
there.
limited.
My-
I know what you're saying injury wise, but no, he's just limited in general.
My one fear would be that, like, they did get the win against LSU, but Vanderbilt has kind of been in these situations where they've been either really close in games or have won games where they have gotten pretty much outplayed during the game. Like,
Yeah.
they have found ways to win, and it's a credit to them, but like, they've mastered the fluky win this year. At what point does it all come crumbling down? Like, we see that a lot of times in college football, these teams that are winning, like, look at BYU.
Yeah.
Does it happen this week? I'm betting on it not happening this week, but if this game, like, if you're really looking to bet this game and you start watching it and Tennessee just looks like a machine, maybe live bet Tennessee to do something in this game, because there is going to be a moment for Vanderbilt where it all comes crumbling down. They have one of the worst pass defenses in the country still.
Mhm.
Everyone has been able to pass on them, but they just haven't been like hurt by it. It's crazy.
Well, it's just like one of those gamer teams. We talk about gamer quarterbacks. Like, that's what they are as a team. And I think, Sam, you said they beat LSU. I think you might have meant covered against LSU, because
They covered against LSU.
They
right?
did lose that game, yeah. But yes, I hear what you're saying. I'm taking Vandy. I think we're all on Vandy, but like, yes, could Tennessee come out and just decide, oh yeah, we're going to whip them because we want to, maybe.
But the big brother, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm not buying it. All right,
it's a hedge your bet opportunity. Just put that out there. Yeah.
Another game involving a ranked team on Saturday. We got Notre Dame, who just comes off a huge victory against Army and is going out to the West Coast to play USC. And what I find interesting about this, they played that game in Yankee Stadium last week against Army. They got to go to South Bend, and then they got to go to LA. Like, that's not great. And I know, say what you want about USC this year. They've been a disappointment for sure. But getting 7.5 at home, that with a team that's playing 2 back-to-back roadies across the country and does have a pressure packed. Like I said, no one is really playing better than Notre Dame has since the NIU game, but I still kind of like USC in the spot.
I just think the vibes are off with USC. I just
is
can't
that
get myself there.
overthinking it?
No, I don't think it's overthinking. I see the vision, but I just think that USC is, they've had some quarterback controversy. Like I'm wondering if Lincoln is on his way out. I'm wondering if he would like to coach his former quarterback in Chicago. A lot of questions here for USC that I just don't feel comfortable enough taking them on such a smaller spread. If this was 13.5, maybe, but to ask them to keep it within a touchdown feels like a stretch.
Yeah. And now I'm remembering, Sam, what I said on Monday, that Notre Dame's going to kick the shit out of them. And,
They might.
And that,
no, cover your bases. Cover
I'm
your bases.
talking out both sides of my mouth this week. I don't know. Now I don't know what to do.
It's weird because the spot is there, right? Like, this is one of those college football things that happens where it all plays itself out. And there's this rivalry weekend upset that knocks a team out of the BCS or the playoff or whatever. I have a really hard time seeing USC getting a foothold in this game in terms of like efficiency ratios. Notre Dame is number 1 in the country. They control games better than any team has this year, and that is adjusted for opponents as well. Like they dominate each and every drive, and I don't see USC as a team that can overcome that, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which is a bit of a flip from what you would think. But offensively, they just don't seem to have it this year. I do like Maeva, but he's a big time turnover threat. And I'm a little bit worried about that playing this Notre Dame defense that really flies around.
I think you could talk yourself, as we've done here, into either line of thinking. Like, okay, Notre Dame's played a really clean sheet. Eventually, they'll come back down to earth, and maybe USC covers, even if you think Notre Dame will get the win. Or you play the other side. Like, USC is so mid. They haven't looked good most of the season, and Notre Dame's playing amazing. So why would you not take the Irish? So I think I may decide this later tonight. I'm not sure, but those are your lines of thinking, and I'm not going to make a pick as of right now because I just don't know what to do. Arizona State at Arizona. Arizona, I think I wrote this down wrong, fellas. Arizona plus 8.5 at home in a game Arizona State needs badly. These are Sam's Sun Devils. What do you think here, Sam?
I do love the Sun Devils. I love Kenny Dillingham. I love Scadaboo. I love Sam Levitt. But dude, this is so college football for Arizona to win this game. Like this is a big rivalry.
Big 12 too.
It's one of those like deep-seated state school rivalries. Arizona's going to be up for this game. Arizona's talent level is better than their record. Arizona State's probably is less than their record. It depends on which Arizona team shows up, because Arizona has looked good at points this year, but they've also looked really bad. And we've seen a couple performances from Arizona State where they just haven't looked as polished as you would have liked. I'm staying away from this game because of the wackiness potential, but this is a big time upset spot for Arizona State with everything that's on the line, and it is a big time upset spot.
I'm on Arizona plus 8.5. Rob, what are you doing here?
I'm not touching this game with a 10-foot pole. That's what I'm doing. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Arizona looks so pathetic though. Like they're not playing good football at all. But at the same time, it's just like, you know, they have a potential top 10 draft pick at wide receiver in Ted McMillan. Like, you still have to keep that in mind, and keep in mind the fact that, like, any given Saturday, that Fafita, McMillan, you know, West Coast Manziel Evans combo can show back up and you know, kind of end that season on a high note. So I don't know. I'm not touching it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
All right, let's move.
Sorry, that's a non-answer, but
no, that's okay.
No,
that's okay.
There's one like stat thing to point out here. Arizona State is better in pretty much every facet of the game, except for third down defense. Arizona State has not gotten off the field very well. Playing against an experienced quarterback, a really good wide receiver that's probably better than any of your corners, that could be a factor in this game.
I just don't know if Arizona State, who's had to juice it up 2 or 3 weeks in a row now, can juice it up for a bad Arizona team. I know it's a rivalry. I get that. But like that BYU game was huge. The students stormed the field, all that stuff. Like coming down from that when they didn't play well the last 3 quarters of that game, and then having to go out and cover 8.5 against Arizona. That's why I'm taking Arizona. I know they're a mess, but they do have that one elite playmaker, and they could keep it close. So that's what I'm going to stick with. Purdue at Indiana. Indiana, huge 29-point favorites in an in-state rivalry. I'm saying off the bat, I'm taking Purdue because they played Michigan State tough. They covered. They damn near beat Illinois, who's been a good team all year. Walters has major issues. He's not a good coach. We kind of know that. But can they cover 29 against Indiana? I think they can. Rob, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think you want to talk about wrath of God? Look out for Kirk Cignetti, man. I think this is a spot where Indiana covers and then some. Like I think this is a bloodbath. And I know I know that's crazy to say, especially because the Purdue-Indiana rivalry is very underrated. They genuinely hate each other, but at the same time, it's more of a basketball rivalry than anything. But yeah, I don't know. I think Sig knows. I think he probably feels pretty disrespected that they got dropped all the way to 10. And I disagree with that committee decision, but it's hard for them to see Penn State at 4 and themselves at 10 with the same record and the same loss. So yeah, no, I think he's going for style points here. And Purdue sucks.
Yeah, Purdue's bad. I have the under in this game. And my big reason for that is I think Indiana's defense has been consistently pretty darn good. Like even against like Ohio State had a short field a lot of times in that game. And then they scored a touchdown late to get to like 30 something. So I have the under in this one. I don't think Purdue can score too much. I think Indiana's going to win comfortably, but their offense looks to be a bit out of sorts, especially on the offensive line. So you wonder like how are guys beat up a little bit, or are they, missing timing? So I think I have the under in this game, but I think Indiana wins comfortably. 29 has a lot of points though.
Comfortably could be 24, and
Yeah,
so
it could.
and honestly, when I was watching the Michigan State game, and yes, I did watch a lot of Purdue, Michigan State, Purdue would have had a chance to win that game if they didn't make, I don't know, a dozen boneheaded mistakes. And now all of those mistakes could happen in this one too. And if they do, Indiana will probably cover. But if you can just muster a day where you play much more clean football, Purdue's going to be in this game. But that's going to be hard for them because they've made a lot of mistakes all year long. Nevertheless, I'm sticking with the Boilermakers. Washington at Oregon, not quite as fun as the last year, Washington and Oregon in this one. Oregon, 18.5-point favorites. They need to win, but they're probably in the playoff regardless. So just for seeding purposes, they want to win and all that kind of stuff. What do you think here, Rob? I like Oregon just hasn't looked amazing in about a quarter of their games this year. Do they get it together and kick butt in this one?
I mean, the Apple Cup is a big rivalry. I feel like Washington has
this isn't the Apple Cup, though. You're mixed up because they had to move it this year.
Wait, no, I'm sorry, I got that rivalry name wrong. Regardless, Washington, they are playing better. Jedfish, I think it is one of those things where they are having to, they had to overhaul the whole roster basically. Will Rogers, he and Dylan Gabriel are like, I think I saw where they have the most active leaders in passing touchdowns or something like that. Yeah, I think this is a closer game. I've seen Oregon winning by like 17. So I would take Washington in the points.
Yeah, I like Washington too. Sam, what do you got?
I have under in this game. Oregon's defense has been consistently dominant no matter the opponent. So I think the Ducks run the ball, slow this game down. Their spot is pretty much settled right now. So I think they just kind of control this game. And again, this could be, we want to think about Oregon as this high flying team, but they haven't really been that much this year. They've been a ground and pound team. Yeah. And I think that's going to be what they do in this rivalry game. One that they don't need style points like these other teams do. So I don't think they're going to be just run and gun in the whole game.
Rob, it's called the Border War. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember what they call Oregon and Washington. Yeah. Border War. It's normally Apple Cup weekend.
Washington State. Yeah.
Yeah. It's normally Apple Cup weekend, but they moved it because of the conference situation, obviously. Right. All right, let's move to the ACC, guys, because we got a huge one here. Rob has some family ties to this one. South Carolina going to Clemson. Clemson, 3-point favorites at home. So I suppose that means if it's a neutral field, this is a pick 'em. What are your thoughts here, Rob, since you've got a Clemson Tiger wife over there?
Yeah, don't tell my wife. I have a lot of money on South Carolina money line. I cannot fathom why they're not favored in this game. This is a horrible, horrible matchup for Clemson. Clemson is terrible against the run. South Carolina's entire offense is based on their run game with Rocket Sanders and Morris Sellers. Clemson's offensive line is decimated. They had another starter go down with a torn ACL in practice today, or I'm sorry, earlier this week, and against arguably the best defensive line in the country, they're not going to be able to stop the run. They're not going to be able to run the ball or protect Cade. I think this could get really ugly. And South Carolina would very well make their case for the CIP.
Yeah, this is. I'm not touching this game because it has been a little weird the last few years. But my fear with South Carolina is they are one of those teams that has lost every time that they've played one of the better teams that they've played. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost to Alabama. You know, this is not a dominant force college football playoff team. And I do kind of fear that Clemson is maybe a little bit better than what we think they are. But who knows? Like, I don't think it's a good matchup for Clemson at all. I think this is a matchup nightmare. They are going to have to overcome the interior of this game. Like, South Carolina's front seven is going to give them issues. And defensively, I don't think Clemson's going to be a team that's going to stop the run a lot. But we'll see. We'll see. Like, they have elite players all over the field. If somebody steps up, it could flip the script in this game.
I am surprised that Clemson's favored. Like, I really like. I agree with Rob on that one. Like, they did not look like a good offense at all when they came to Blacksburg. And you know the problems we have, and especially when the very next week Duke hits all those big plays. I guess it was 2 weeks later, but you get my point. And that defensive line from South Carolina, I mean, they could eat them up. Like, they really could. And so I like South Carolina. I'm taking the points. I'm rooting for Clemson because of just go ACC, but the ACC desperately needs this one. Like, if they want, I mean, it would help on a variety of fronts. The interesting thing is neither Miami or SMU have played Clemson. So like, in terms of like a head-to-head or like a boost, like, it doesn't matter there, but it does matter residually across the conference and just respect-wise. And so that's a big one. Moving to Louisville, Kentucky, this is a must-win for the ACC, a must-win for Jeff Brom and Louisville, because Kentucky has had their number even in their best years.
And Kentucky's bad. Like, they're really bad.
Yeah.
This is the worst. Kentucky's probably the worst team in the SEC. Brock Vandagriff looks horrible. Louisville has to win this one. Yeah. They just have to. I think they will.
Yeah, must win for the Cardinals. I do think this is another one of those games where you could have a coach and maybe a coaching staff that are a bit on their way out the door, especially Stoops, who doesn't seem to be too interested in the whole NIL thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little bit curious where Kentucky's head is at for this game. And Louisville, this is like, again, another team that's just lost every time they've played a good team. So they do have that win at Clemson, which is what they're kind of hanging their hat on, but they've had a couple of bad performances. I don't see them having another bad performance. I think Brom will get them ready for this game. So I think Louisville just outscores Kentucky in this one. I don't think Kentucky will be able to put up 28, 30-some points.
Louisville, they just have to win. I don't have like a ton of reasoning behind it. Kentucky's way worse than them. They have a real problem spot here, and they need a win to get over this hump. They really do. And this is a prime spot. I know it's on the road, but in terms of the year and the quality of the teams, like, they have to do it. Anyway, Duke at Wake. Duke has a chance to have a really good season if they pull off this win. Although I do think Wake's a little live here. Like, I think they could do something and end up covering or winning the game outright. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or cares on this one. There's a couple better games on this slate.
I like Wake. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I need Wake to lose to cash their under 4.5 wins. So pulling for the Blue Devils.
All right. Pitt at BC. BC 4.5 point favorites, guys. So there must be something about getting rid of Castellanos that they like. I mean, they did just beat UNC. They
killed them.
Yeah, they didn't completely embarrass themselves playing SMU. Like, they lost by 10 points, whatever, on the road. So, yeah, I think I like BC with this one. And then,
Pittsburgh ending the season 7-5 is going to piss me off so much.
They were 7-0, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2 of their wins are crazy fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah.
So
They are what
Pittsburgh
they
is
thought
who
they
we
were.
thought they were. Yeah, and they are their offensive line is terrible. Like they are totally beat up on the offensive line.
All right, let's talk about something fun. Miami at Syracuse. Miami going to the Dome. Syracuse has had an equally impressive season as Duke, and McCord's coming off a 470-yard performance last weekend against UConn. They are 11-point favorites at home. I think of this similarly to how I think of Vandy. You got to take Q's and the orange here, right, Rob?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited for this. I think these QBs are just going to air it out against pretty weak secondaries. I mean, I think there could be upwards of 700 passing yards between the two quarterbacks in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I real quick, I was watching football last night and came to a conclusion on my comp for Cam Ward. Optimized Drew Lock for Cam Ward. Like, think about it. Like, has the plays, but it's like a read option type of runner, but can scramble, can move around, roughly the same size, does really well off script.
It's not bad. It's not bad comp.
I think Miami handles this game, but this could be like a game played in the 40s. Syracuse has scored 30 plus in each of their last 4 games. Miami, of course, we know what that offense can do. I'm excited to see Miami's speed on that turf field, though. That's going to be fun to watch. I think it'll really come down to, can Miami stop the RPO game from Syracuse? Because that's been their offense this year. And when teams haven't been able to stop it, Syracuse can kind of get on a roll and start scoring drive after drive after drive. But when it's not working, defenses have been able to stop Syracuse. So I think it really comes down to Miami stopping that one play type, because we know Miami's going to score.
Yes, they will score. Absolutely. I mean, hell, we went up there and scored with our backup quarterback and backup running back. So they're going to score. This is going to be back and forth. And it's probably one of the most fun games of the weekend. So
it's whoever has the ball last. That's how I feel about it.
Rob, did you see my private message to you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Cal at SMU. SMU 13.5-point favorites. I think Rob put this on our chat, but the matchup from the Calgorithm was called Trans versus Trans Am. Mildly inappropriate for the podcast, but I do think the Calgorithm has been just such a bright spot this year, add to the ACC, and we got 2 of the new guys going at it. Does Cal ruin SMU's season here, Sam?
It does kind of feel like their Super Bowl was last week in their rivalry game. 98 yards with my boys. Print the T-shirts for Mendoza.
That was Mendoza, yeah.
I just don't see Cal. They haven't really been a good team for pretty much the entire season, outside of like their win at Auburn, and they hung tough with Miami. So I think SMU handles this game.
Yeah.
I like, it's weird to say, but I like Rhett Lashley in these spots. I think he is the type of coach that is not going to let his team sleepwalk through a game. They have not had that issue at SMU.
Yeah. All right. NC State at UNC. NC State has dominated this rivalry as of late. UNC's had a surprisingly good season. They're letting Mac Brown finish by coaching this game. UNC -3. I think I want to take CJ Bailey and the Pack in this one. I don't know what to make of UNC. Like what happened last week? Because Sam, me and you were both kind of singing their praises, and it looked like they were going to get to maybe 8 wins this year, and that's just not the case.
The defense has not been good the last few weeks, and their offense has been able to like overcome that. I have the over in this game. Let me check what I have it at again. I have it at 55.5. Neither of these defenses have been very good this year, but both offenses can run the ball, especially NC State with CJ Bailey. He's been dynamic with his legs. Omarion Hampton, one of the better running backs in the country.
He's had a fantastic
I
season.
think you're going to see a few explosive plays in this game. If I had to pick a winner, I'm going to go with the Wolfpack. But this could be a fun game. This could be a fun game.
It will be very fun. I like the Pack too. I think they're going to spoil that last MAC game. I mean, and the fact that they almost beat Georgia Tech, like they did really well. I know they let it get away from them at the end, but that's a really, really tough opponent.
Yeah.
All right, Florida at FSU. Are we giving FSU a chance to win the game outright? No.
Nope.
Not a chance.
No.
Okay. It's in Tallahassee. They're 16.5 point dogs. What about the spread? What about the spread? Nothing?
No.
I mean, I think Florida State is so egregiously bad that people have talked about like what's the worst drop off year to year. Like UCF had undefeated and then winless, right?
Yes, one win maybe. I can't remember, but yeah, it was bad.
I think this might be worse. Like this might be the biggest drop off of a team in the history of modern college football.
Yeah. Especially when like they're not untalented. It's not like I know they lost Jordan Travis and they lost a bunch of players, but there's a lot of players that they brought in the portal, a lot of players they had still.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing with the same coach. It's not like they, their coach got hired away. Like I think that's what happened with UCF, right? Like didn't O'Leary retire or something?
Yeah, they had they had a few things happen in the offseason, but this is it's almost weird.
Yeah.
Like what is going on?
And Florida's playing outstanding right now. Like they just beat 2 top 25 teams. And so it's very hard not to take the Gators in this one. I agree. All right, fellas. So we talked a little bit about the ACC and how I think they can assert themselves not as a conference that's on the same level as the SEC, but like a conference that, depending on who the best teams are, would warrant having 3 teams in. If you can get a result in the Clemson game that favors us, if you can get the Louisville win, and Georgia Tech can even play decent. But if you were to get all 3 of those games, like I think the case for the ACC to get 3 teams in becomes really, really good.
I can see 2.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Getting all 3 would be very challenging.
But you look at it now and it's like if you have 3 teams currently in the top 12, you know that 12th spot is going to go to a Big 12 team. Theoretically, Clemson wins. They just need 1 team to lose. So if Vandy gets that upset over Tennessee, Clemson's in. So, I mean, I think it's very, very feasible.
Yeah, so you're saying, like, Georgia Tech loses, and if Clemson and Louisville both win, like, that's all you really need to get 3 teams in because, 1, they're already there, and 2, you might get some other things to go your way in other games.
Yeah, you just need 1 upset above in the top 11 to happen as well, I guess. But
the one of the biggest keys for the ACC is Miami not to lose.
Yes.
Like if they lose, they will ruin
and
a
SMU,
lot of
both of
everybody. Them. Yeah, SMU. You're right. I mean, I just find that less likely because they're at home, but Miami is in a losable spot.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough on that. Do you guys want to do a quick VT corner here?
Sure.
Yeah, let's end it with a VT corner.
Okay.
We're at kickoff now.
Yeah, it is noon. You're right. Okay. Will the result on Saturday night change any of your big picture thoughts on the season or the staff, Sam?
No. Nope.
What about
the only thing?
Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say the only thing it changes for me, I don't know if it necessarily changes my perception of what has transpired this year. Like ultimately, I think it's a failure, but I think however it moves forward, especially if Brent Pry is given another chance to, make those wholesale changes, not just in staff, but in terms of how they prepare and just clearly all the things that need to change. I don't feel bullish about it regardless, but I would feel even less bullish if they missed a bowl and missed out on that opportunity to have those extra weeks of practice. Because I think that if Brent Pry is going to steer this ship straight, have to have these extra weeks of Pop Watson, Brody Adams, Chance Wiggins, Jeremiah Coney, Dante Lovett, like Thomas Williams, all these guys have to get that extra rep of practice while guys are probably going to opt out just because, I mean, that's the beast now. But if they can't even do that, then, I mean, we might be looking at a lame duck. So,
yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I also think this would be the first bad team Tech lost to this year. Because Rutgers,
Rutgers
loss doesn't. Well, see, in classic Virginia Tech fashion, like that was the only game Rutgers has been healthy for all season long.
Yeah.
Like, all those stud defensive guys didn't play the rest of the year after they played Tech.
Yeah.
That's
They're getting a little healthier now, but agreed. They were in a better spot than the next 5 weeks after.
Right. Like this would be the worst loss they've had this year, especially considering the spot, first home game with fans in 6 years, first, like, it is a must win in every aspect. I think for me, we know the changes that need to be made across the team. This is just about, like, can you hold your head up after this season or not? Like that's what this game is. Because if you win this game and you make a bowl, then I think you can sell the program a little differently of, hey, we're 1 or 2 plays away in a lot of these games. If you lose this game, you can't sell that at all.
No, I fully agree. And a loss just would be pretty devastating. Like, to put it plain and simple, to sum it up, no, the season hasn't gone well. And no, we're really not going to do anything regardless of whether we win. But a loss for the off-season vibes and everything else, it would be devastating. And it does kind of kill your sales job, because if you do go 6-6, which is already disappointing, it is at least the same as a year ago. It is not worse. It is the same. And it is worse in our minds because of the expectations, but it's not worse in history books, and it's not worse when you look at the final record. And so it is, you have to win. The whole conversation that's gone around online and in some of the chats of taking a loss, could that potentially be better for Tech long term? And I think we know what that means. People maybe be getting let go because of the result here. Are you of the opinion, both of you, that any decisions regarding staff have been made regardless of what happens on Saturday night?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think making a staff decision based on one game doesn't really vibe with what we've seen. And I also think it's never better to lose. Like this, you're not playing for a draft pick. It's never, ever better to lose this game.
I think for some people that it is in their minds. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was just going to say, to go back to the development point and that practice, like whoever's the head coach next year, whether it's Brent Pry or whomever else, now you're giving them a less developed roster, and I can't get behind the rationale that we should be rooting for a loss. I just can't get there. So
we're talking about the future in general. We're not talking only about coaches or only about this or only about that. Like, what's better for Virginia Tech's future? Going to a bowl is better for Virginia Tech's future. And so we'll leave that there. In terms of the actual game, one more thing. We got quarterback issues on both sides of either team here. We got Musket or Calandria, and we got, is it going to be Schlee? Is it going to be Pop? Is it going to be Drones? Is it pretty much set that we think it's going to be Pop Watson for the Hokies in this one?
Yeah, I don't see a world where Schlee plays, and I don't think Drones is going to play. So
no, I would imagine Drones probably would not play. He seems just too banged up. And Schlee, I don't know. I mean, he could clear concussion protocol in an hour, and then he's playing. But he got crushed. Like that hit was bad. And I'm no concussion expert, so who knows? They're impossible to predict. But I would say the safer side is to expect Pop to play.
Mm-hmm. And with the Musket or Calandria thing, do you care, Sam?
They're definitely two different styles of quarterback. I would probably rather go up against Musket, but they've been really weird about it. Like UVA's, it hasn't been who's the better guy. Like they've stuck with Calandria until they absolutely have to pull him. So I think you're going to see Calandria. It honestly is just more about Tech's mentality in this game. If they come out with the mentality they did last year, they're going to wipe the floor with them. If they come out like they did against Duke and they don't know their assignments and they're slipping and sliding all over the place, it could get ugly. Like, I mean, I'm going to be blank with you. Like,
he can make plays. Like,
he can make
Calandria,
plays,
for all of his flaws, he can make some plays. He can move around. Like, him and Pop Watson aren't so different. like they're similar sizes. They're similar styles of play. They both can make a flashy thing happen. I'm just excited. It's just it throws a little bit of an interesting monkey wrench into it all, right, Rob?
Yeah, I actually think I'd rather play Calandria. I know that's kind of a hot take, but I think that if I'm Tony Elliott right now, and I know making a bowl game and beating my rival to do it would be astronomical for this program, as bad as this season has been at points. And the quarterback that I trust to go out there and win games, especially against a team in Virginia Tech that keeps shooting itself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Put out the guy, and that is not a musket pun. I just want to put that out there. Put out the guy that you know is not going to shoot himself in the foot. You know, and to me, that's Musket. He's a safer style of quarterback. If you just let Tech screw up and you stay steady, to me, that's your best course of action. And so for me, I'd be worried about that. Whereas with Calandria, we know, we get pressure on him. He's going to make some mistakes. And
he's probably
Tech
going to give us
winning
the
the
ball
turnover
once or
battle.
twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you have
And
to
Tech
score
winning
off of
the
them.
turnover battle is how this gets ugly.
You have to score off those turnovers, though. Tech has not
That's
done
true.
a good job of that this year. They have had a lot of times where they've gotten a turnover and have not scored.
Yeah, I just think UVA's best strategy is ball control, and I think Musket is better suited for that personally.
Okay.
But
yeah, I don't really think it matters. Musket's not as mobile. I think our pass rush would get home. They're going to get home on both of them. And I do think you're right, Rob, that Calandria stands to give us the ball more than Musket would. And so I think I just take Calandria because Sam said it in one of our previews, like, it's fun to watch him get hit. And,
Yeah, it is
and I want to see him get hit. So, all right, that'll do it, fellas. I mean, I was going to share maybe a slide or whatever, but we're done. This has been an hour and 15 minutes. It's been fun. We got a lot of college football. It's starting right now. And it
Ashton
continues
Jensen's on my TV. Gotta go.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I'm about to go fire it up too. So thanks for being here. Thanks for staying with us. Anyone who watched our first edition College Football Friday, I'm probably going to add this to the podcast feed a little bit later today. Some of the information will be old, but a lot of it will still be good up to Virginia Tech game time. So thanks for being here. And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.